Hello and welcome to another episode of Building Success, a real estate podcast. My name is Nick, and I will once again be your guide as we talk to some of the best and brightest in the worlds of real estate tech, operations, and financials from across the globe. This podcast could not be possible without support from listeners just like you. So if you like what you hear and want to hear more of it, please think about subscribing to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, really wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you could leave a rating or review, that would be great as well. Lets us know how we're doing and really helps with the rankings of this show for people that are also trying to discover new podcasts related to real estate. Today's episode, I speak with Jamie Wohlschlegel of ServusConnect. And what we really dive into today is on multifamily tech, how that's really changing the face of how property managers and operators are working with their residents and what the future looks like. And some of the statistics that come up about SMS, texting and communication with your residents, smart speakers, smart thermostats, the ways that you engage and interact with your residents are changing. And Jamie was really knowledgeable in showcasing some of the ways that tech is really coming into play to help position you for a future that's uncertain in the multifamily real estate space, and really putting you in prime position to benefit your company by retaining your residents and attracting new residents. So really engaging conversation. Hope you like it. And without further ado, here is Jamie Wohlschlegel. Thank you so much, Jamie Wohlschlegel, for joining me today.
Thanks. Great to be here, and nice pronunciation of my last name. Good work.
It took a little bit of practice in my head anyway, and I wrote it out phonetically. But
awesome.
Let's start with your background before we dive into the kind of multifamily tech segment. You want to tell me kind of where you came from, what brought you to ServusConnect?
Yeah, so I'll age myself a little bit, but I graduated college in the mid '90s, and I went to work for a multifamily company, owner operator in Maryland, and really enjoyed my time there and learned a lot. But that was kind of those years were kind of the beginning of the .com boom, right? Late '90s.
Yeah.
And I was, real estate wasn't there with technology. And it's funny, it's a little bit about what this podcast is about, but definitely in those times it wasn't there. And I was totally enticed and interested in, computers and tech. And so I got sucked into that ecosystem and moved to North Carolina and the Research Triangle Park down here, where there's a lot of technology, and spent my next 15 years in that ecosystem, helping large enterprise companies with technology enablement and infrastructure and things like that. And then the genesis of ServusConnect was back in 2014. I was super fortunate to be able to take a break from my career in technology and infrastructure, and started to dig back a little bit into my multifamily roots, and was just really amazed again at the fact that, hey, there's a real lack of technology focus in multifamily, especially at the property level. And maintenance operations is an area of just huge importance to multifamily operators. And it is a very, very manual. To this day, it's a very, very manual operation, but it's so critical to resident satisfaction. It's critical to the expense budget, and we really saw an opportunity to start to automate a lot of the manual processes and paper-driven workflows that dominate maintenance operations at the property level, and with both mobile and web technologies. And that was really the origin back in 2014 of the beginning of ServusConnect.
Well, and quite frankly, that's the origin of this podcast too, is the fact that there's so much going on in the tech space for real estate, and specifically on the multifamily side, where in previous episodes I've talked about a lot of the tech being laggard to a lot of the stuff that's happening on the consumer side. Why don't we start there? You've spent 15 years in tech. You've now developed this company in the multifamily sector. What are you currently seeing in the market as the future for tech here?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So, we beat this to death. Multifamily is kind of the lagger when it comes to real estate in general. Is definitely the lagger when it comes to technology. But I think what we really see as a future, you could almost boil it down to one word, and it's the word is connected. If you follow the consumer technology trends, right, really all you have to do is look to Amazon or look at Google or Apple. Those guys really set the trends. Their goal is to connect everything, right? They have their crosshairs on our homes, right? They want to deploy all this internet connected technology. And this is, I think that one word connected is really a major driver for multifamily, is getting to that state where systems are connected, where we can interact with residents in their homes, in their apartment homes, in a connected way. And we're starting to see this in multifamily with smart home packages and things like that, offering smart thermostats and lighting and even smart speakers as part of maybe closing incentives. But I think those things will start to be amenities in the future as well, just a standard offering. The next thing that we really are keeping an eye on is engagement, right? So engagement with residents, engagement with the consumer. Every brand, every company is fighting for engagement with the consumer. And property management companies, multifamily is no different. How do we engage residents in a way that's meaningful, that meets residents where they are on technologies that they want to be reached on? We see a lot of growth in technologies like SMS messaging, and mostly just because it's a medium where we can engage with residents. And frankly, if you look at the statistics, 98% of SMS messages are read, and they have a 45% response rate. This is off the charts compared to any other communication channel, B2C or C2C that's out there. And then the last thing that is super interesting that I know you guys have talked a little bit about before. This touches a little bit on that, but artificial intelligence or AI. I think AI is obviously going to be pushed by the likes of Google and Amazon and Apple, right? They're going to use AI in the back end of their technologies. I think from a multifamily perspective, maybe you can switch that acronym around to IA, and it could be defined as intelligent automation. How do we use intelligent automation in these systems in a connected way to better engage residents? I believe that is really the future of technology, and at least for the next few years, where multifamily operators need to wrap their heads around this and get on board with some of these initiatives.
And it's interesting you say that 98% of texts get read, because then you got to balance the ease of automation with privacy of the resident, of the ability for them to not feel like they're getting badgered with messages and communications from their property. And there could be a fine line there, right, where you're automating that communication and making it easier to communicate with them, but maybe they don't necessarily want that communication.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge focus. We actually have a client that the VP of IT also has a law degree, and he's done the case study on SMS messaging and opt-in and opt-out, and from the company's perspective of, hey, this is a technology that they want to use, but how does the company protect itself, from lawsuits from the resident? And you have to have very well thought out roadmap for the technology and the messages that you're putting out there, and giving residents the ability to opt out of these automatic notifications. Obviously, you don't want them to do that, because you want to be able to communicate with them, because it's such a valuable medium. But at the same time, right, I think it's up to us as technology innovators and developers to really be super thoughtful about that messaging, how we engage residents with this technology, and making sure it's not something that it's not annoying enough that they want to opt out of it.
And that they actually see it as an amenity, right? They see it
That's
as an
right.
advantage
That's
of
right.
living in that community. They're not having to deal with the phone calls. They're not having to stop in at the office. They're able to do all that digitally.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen this disengagement, if you will, from face-to-face interaction, from phone interaction, right? And these used to be the core tenets of how a multifamily operator at the property level communicated with a resident. A resident came into the office or called up to make a service request. Now it's not that way. Multifamily has responded pretty well with portals and property specific mobile apps where residents can request service or pay their rent or do things like that. Those are great. Those are a great first step. But need to keep the pedal on the metal regarding how we engage residents, and do it in ways where we're thinking to the future of, hey, this is how I'm going to get the most engagement with my residents. This is the experience that I would like them to have when they think about our property, our brand, our product, and view these things as amenities versus these guys are just pestering the heck out of me, and I'm just going to tell them to stop, or I'm just going to move. Right? That's really not helpful at all.
I'm glad you said the word amenity again, because I wanted to get back to that, because I heard you say that earlier. And speaking from like a resident satisfaction point, it's funny to me that amenities were always something very simple, like a laundry room or having a parking space. And now we're utilizing that word amenity to mean technology advantages at this property. And you were speaking earlier about having the smart thermostats and the smart homes and the smart speakers, and all of these now being defined as an amenity for a prospective resident looking at your property. What else do you kind of classify? What are these amenities moving forward in your mind?
Well, obviously I'm biased, right? I'm in technology. I think technology is an amenity. It's funny. I just listened to a podcast from a CEO of an owner-operator multifamily firm out of Houston, and he was talking about the fact that amenities, right? Having an awesome pool or a dog park or tennis courts or things like that. Those things are a dime a dozen. From his perspective, the amenities have to do with services, right? And access to services. Yes, you need a pool, and yes, you probably need a fitness center, but everybody's going to have those things. What sets your apartment community apart, what sets your brand apart is how you service your residents, and what residents have to say about that. So amenities are desirable things, they're useful things, right, that are part of our property. Again, I think desirable is dime a dozen. I think useful is really where the future of technology and multifamily comes into play. Can we make technology useful for residents, and can operators leverage this technology, leverage our technology or MRI's technology or other multifamily technology providers to really engage residents in useful activities, providing useful services. I think at the end of the day, the interface between an apartment community's services and available services, right, the technology interface, will be the amenity, right? And so the value proposition from a renter's perspective is, hey, come as you are, bring the technology that you like, right, that Google and Amazon and Apple are shoving down our throats, and we're going to provide you a digitally connected, automated, accessible level of service and access to services 24/7, just like you would order an Uber, on an app, right? You should be able to use your Alexa to order services or pay your rent or reserve a parking spot, or have a daily flash briefing that has information about what's happening at your apartment community that day. Like, I think that interface is the amenity.
And so what's interesting about that, in my eyes anyway, is that you're referring to these these integrations as being for the client's client, right? I work at MRI Software. You work at ServusConnect. We create solutions for property managers, right? And those are the clients. But then there's this next level, right, of creating convenience and ease of use for the client's client, right? The actual renter itself. And so what you're saying is it's beyond just having applications for the property manager that all work and speak together, but now the property manager has to provide those options to their residents.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is the case. And, again, you can't get into some of this intelligent automation and resident experience technology without having property management systems being able to be connected to technology like ServusConnect or SMS systems that can participate and facilitate this, these stage gate notifications to residents, right? Those things won't be able to be possible without these systems that are connected, and for your stuff to talk to my stuff, to talk to another third party that delivers that service out to the resident, that ultimately maybe interfaces with a smart speaker or other IoT connected device that that's hitting our apartments.
So where does a multifamily operator start? There's so much going on. There's so much technology that I've noticed just in starting this podcast out there on the residential side of the market. If you're a property manager, if you're listening to this podcast, where do you start with all of this? It seems like such a big initiative.
Yeah, it is. And I think we all know what happens when we try to boil the ocean, right? We don't actually get anything done. We kick the can on a lot of initiatives. So, we're real bullish. If I were to pick one, right, that is, super impactful and, is a way to engage residents in a way that's innovative, that sets my brand apart, that maybe tells a lot about my brand, from an apartment operator perspective, either at the property level or across the company. I think it's voice, leveraging voice. And again, when I speak of voice, I speak of like Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant or Apple HomePod. Leveraging voice is a great way to set yourself apart. There is a reason why voice is projected to be, a 17 to $20 billion market in 4 years, right? There's a reason for that. And, right now it's in, I think the last analyst information I saw, it's in 1 out of 6 homes. It's expected to be in, 3/4 of our homes by 2020, and then, multiple devices in homes by, just a couple of years later. So, this is a technology that's not going away. It's easy. It's going to show up in our apartments by the droves. So, why not leverage something that's already there? It's relatively easy to connect into. The Google and Amazon have great APIs, which really is a prerequisite to this, and tie into those devices and start, delivering unique apartment services through them. I think that's a really, really great opportunity. I think a lot of apartment operators already have a lot of technology modernization initiative, resident engagement stuff going on, but if you want to set yourself apart, I think voice is something that apartment operators should really, really start to look at as a key differentiator amenity for their residents.
And so what is some of that low-hanging fruit in terms of utilization of voice? What could they use that for? Yeah.
Maintenance is number one. I think maintenance is low-hanging fruit. It's again, I'm biased in that because this is a playground that we play in. But maintenance is probably the number one reason why residents don't renew. They're frustrated with maintenance and they're frustrated with services. So, from a maintenance perspective and just volume, other than collecting rent, maintenance is the way that multifamily operators interact with their residents the most. So just making it easy to use voice technology to request maintenance, right? That's super low hanging fruit. Then you can get into rent payments. Alexa, ask ServusBot to pay my rent. And on the back end, our system is connected with a rent payment system that does those transfer of funds, and then within seconds, the resident's getting a text notification that says, "Hey, you've successfully paid your rent. Click here for details of your transactions," things like that. So again, that intelligent automation or that intelligent workflow technology. So rent payments is a good one. Package delivery, another great opportunity. Integration with flash briefing. Hey Alexa, give me my flash briefing for the day, and Alexa goes and rattles off the weather and what time your flight is, and oh, by the way, your rent is due in 3 days. Would you like to pay it now? Or hey, the community social is at the clubhouse tonight at 7 p.m. So integration with just the inherent technology and capabilities of these devices is just a great opportunity to reflect well on your brand and the kind of the digitally connectedness of your brand. And then the last one, I think this one is a little bit further out there, again, from the resident perspective, is multifamily operators actually using these devices for like direct one-on-one customer service interaction. I think this is going to really depend on the proliferation of smart speakers with cameras and monitors, right? So you can have a video conversation with somebody. Speaking of like the Amazon show, I think Google has one as well, where residents could use these devices to connect to a call center to be able to chat with a customer service rep about something that's happening in their unit. So I think that's an interesting opportunity, a little bit further out, right? But I think that's a really interesting opportunity as well.
Yeah, and this maintenance piece, it's definitely your world at ServusConnect. I heard you say ServusBot. What are you guys currently doing on this front?
Yeah, so we piloted a app last fall at MRI International User Conference in Orlando, and it was pretty well received. But we more of our idea on that was just to dip our toe in the water and get an idea of what operators think of it. We got a lot of, hey, that's really cool, et cetera. But we all saw what happened at Christmas. We all saw what Google and Amazon did with just the massive marketing and push of getting these devices out there. And they've kind of become the center of the smart home. And we've all seen the proliferation. So we've kind of doubled down on voice in our development cycle, and really are pushing our maintenance skill out there. We hope to integrate soon with one of the payment providers, such that resident through our app, through our voice app, our voice skill can be able to make a maintenance request, check on the status of a maintenance request, pay their rent, and then getting to the daily briefing is something we're working on as well. But our goal with this technology is to abstract the skill layer, right? Make it easy for an apartment operator to say, oh, I want to offer voice to these 5 communities that are maybe more higher end and have a clientele that would appreciate voice as an amenity, and literally just be able to flip a switch. They don't have to have an FTE that has to develop the skill. Skill development is not a science; it's an art. And we've been doing this for a while, and so I can, having done some of this myself, I can promise you, it is not easy, and it's definitely a learning curve to create a voice skill in a way that is really easy for a resident to be able to manage. You don't want residents being frustrated by your technology services. So we want to provide voice and abstract the, hey, I need to build this and deploy it and manage it, and we want to completely abstract that layer and just allow an apartment operator just to turn it on and post a flyer in the community or send out an email and say, hey, go download our voice skill and you can do X, Y, and Z on our apartment complex. That's the goal for us for voice.
So on the consumer side, you mentioned, this has really started to take over, and over the last few months especially, it's become integrated with so many homes now. And but the one thing that resonated with me, because I just apparently love beating this dead horse, is you've shown this kind of technology and people are finding it cool, but Why should a multifamily operator care about this technology? Why should they make that investment? We see where it's going on the consumer front, but how does this, affect them when they're, already looking at their budget for next year and trying to find out where they have room to kind of grow their operations and business? Why should this technology be something that they're investing in?
Well, at the end of the day, I think it's two things, right? So the first thing is, right, as operators, as multifamily operators, your goal is to attract, engage, serve, and retain residents, right? Be able to increase your rents, stuff like that. Hit your budgets, et cetera. But as and I think Brian Zrimzik talked about this on your podcast a few weeks ago, right? All the analysts are predicting a softening of the market, where we're not going to be booming forever, we're not going to be building forever, right? And so when that market softens, what's going to be the amenity that sets you apart? Again, if the pool and the fitness center and the dog park are all dime a dozen, what's the amenity that's going to set you apart? Tech has the potential to do that, right? And a resident's perception of the level of service that's unlocked at your property by applying this technology or applying this technology interface, could be the differentiator, of you hitting your occupancy goals in a soft market. And the next thing is, I think it really has to do with, it is the consumer side. Again, if you look at what Amazon and Google and Apple are doing, they're marketing, they're selling, they're building products that are have a direct impact on a multifamily operator's product, on the apartment, on the unit. And anytime that you see those guys doing that, you should pay attention to it, and you should try to figure out, okay, how can, this is a direction these guys are pushing the market. How do I harness, their initiatives in a way that can benefit my residents and that can benefit the business, right? Smart home, voice, mobility, APIs, smart locks, IoT, package delivery, all this stuff is not going away anytime soon, right? So, now is the time that multifamily operators should really start to wrap their head around this. And we're starting to see it already. I see positions on LinkedIn all the time, chief innovator. I see those new type of innovation, or marketing and resident engagement. I see those positions starting to come online at property management companies. So I think, the folks in the market that are a little bit forward thinking, they're starting to think about this. But I think it makes sense for everybody to think about, okay, it may be a year down the road, right? But how are we going to start to address these things? I think that's important for folks to start to strategize about.
So outside this technology, Jamie, what else do you see as kind of the future of multifamily tech?
So yeah, and I touched on this a little bit before. I think open and connected is the big, having your system be open, having them be connected, being able to be agile as these new technologies and trends and things like that come out, being able to be agile with your system to be able to tie into these. That's a huge key. I believe the interface as an amenity is the future of technology and multifamily tech. That could be just me, but being able to provide interfaces, technology level interfaces or digital interfaces to your service, I think is the future of technology in multifamily. We're a little bit biased at ServusConnect, right? And when it comes to this, and we're just super passionate about maintenance. And so, being able to provide mobility solutions and that's probably for maintenance staff is probably the number one initiative that we have. And then a close second is how are we engaging residents, and can we engage residents in an automated way that's still thoughtful, that is very communicative with a resident on the status of repairs, what was their satisfaction with these repairs, doing it in mediums that reach residents, and then just making it super easy for apartment operators to leverage this technology without having to add a bunch of headcount to support it. That's a big deal for us, just making our stuff easy to use. And I think that should be the goal of any technology provider in this space.
Well, Jamie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I've listened to all of them, and I really enjoy what you guys are doing, and just great content on everyone. So I appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you contributing to the content of Building Success. If you'd like more information on Jamie Wohlschlegel, as well as all the things that are happening at ServusConnect, you can visit their website at www.servusconnect.com. And that's service spelled Servus. And if you want any more information on Building Success, please follow the website of www.mrisoftware.com/building success. Jamie, do I still need to do the www? I don't think I need to do that anymore.
I honestly, I don't know. I think you can just put ServusConnect.com in a browser and it'll work. I think you could do the same with Building Success podcast as well. Right. Hey, we're supposed to be technology people, right? We should know this stuff.
Yeah. If you try hard enough, you'll be able to find both of us. I'm sure of that. So that'll do it for this episode of Building Success. And until next time, we will see you later.